So recently, I was watching a video from a divorce attorney telling men all the reasons not to get married, from financial consequences to others. And I thought to myself, think about this. When you're giving advice, telling people what not to do, especially when it comes to commitment, you're actually degrading the whole process of dating, mating, or relating. Because what's the point of entering into a relationship at some point if you don't either move in together or get married? And I want to lean into the other reasons beside this divorce attorney giving advice on telling men, particularly, what not to do. So why is it today we see such a proliferation of casual relationships? And I think it's really important to examine this because casual relationships opens the door for so much short-lived relationships. That's right, short-lived relationships. And this is because we have now become a society here in the United States. And did you know that roughly 50% of adults are single? I was like shocked to think about that number. And when you think about all the people who got married at my mom and dad's era and so whatnot, and I can understand younger people not being married, 50% are single. That's a pretty high number. And so what that causes, as I said a moment ago, casual relationships. These are the relationships that really don't have any real meat to them. They don't have a lot of trust and they don't have a lot of commitment. And I believe the reason why this has happened is because we have turned more into a hookup culture here, particularly in the United States, and that might be true for all over the world, this hookup culture, because of these devices, because of swipe dating, the easy access to connect with people. And I think men in particular are playing a game. Now, I don't believe they do this intentionally. I don't believe this is a true conscious game, but the game is this, that you could simply tell someone you want a relationship. And I think women hear that that's something significant. And this is why I want to draw attention to this, because ladies, don't let guys get away with this. Just when you're meeting a man, maybe for the first time through an internet connection, or maybe you've met them even out in the real world, that does occasionally happen. I think it's important that when two people begin to start to feel romantic towards one another, you start to have romantic feelings towards someone, I think it's critically important to define what it is you both want. Okay. Now, on a complete side note, and I'll come back to this in a second, I hope. I shared this recently in a video. I talked about this Netflix show called Indian Matchmaker. And this is where I believe it's the parents that actually reach out and hire the matchmaker, not the individuals. And I'm not certain of that. I'm just saying that out loud. But the families are actively involved with pairing two people together. So there's a real intentionality from the participants, the boy and the girl, if you will, to be intentional about this, because this is a union that's going to lead to marriage, and it's a very short courtship. Today, we don't have that level of intentionality. We don't have that level of real, what is it we're doing? Are we just dating to have a good time? Are we dating to get to know one another? What is it that we're really doing? And ultimately, what is it that you truly want? So if you follow my coaching, by the way, there's a link right here to schedule a discovery call with me. And there's a link in the description below in the first comment to schedule a discovery call with me. One of the things I help women do is get crystal clear on the type of relationship they want. Now, I don't mean the type of relationship like a situationship or a casual relationship. What I mean is who is truly compatible for them when it comes to their values, their lifestyle, and more importantly, what I teach is how to vet and screen people, how to filter out the wrong people. So if you need some help, schedule a call with me. But coming back to my point, what type of relationship? I think it's really important to ask yourself this, but more importantly, ask men, what does commitment mean to you? And more importantly, what does commitment look like for you? Take the word relationship out of the equation. But Jonathan, that will scare men away. listen, folks, you have to play hardball. You have to be, well, you don't have to do anything. This is just a recommendation. But if you want to get to something deeper, then it's critically important to find out, who is this person I'm dealing with? I've shared this recently in videos because I've been watching Jay Shetty lately, and he says it takes about 40 hours of face-to-face time just to barely get to know someone. Think about that, 40 hours of face-to-face time. But Jonathan, all we do is text, and that's our only form of connection. Well, that's a cyber relationship, okay? Now come back to me and tell me, what is it commitment looks like for you? What does commitment mean, but what does commitment look like for you? I got to go off on another tangent here quickly. I got to tell you a story about a client who reached out to me once and said, Jonathan, I'm in a relationship with a guy 9 months and I want more commitment. I'm like, great. What does that look like for you? But Jonathan, I just want more commitment from him. I'm like, great. What does that look like for you? And she screams it at the top of her lungs again. And then she goes on to say, you're not hearing me, Jonathan. I'm like, no, you're not answering my question. If you can't determine what does commitment look like for you, then it's going to be critically difficult to know what it is from him. So if you follow my channel for a while, prior to meeting my beloved, there she is, Marie. She's out visiting her grandkids right now. My standard was really simple. My desire was, in the early stages of building a relationship together, we'd spend 2, 3, 4 days, nights a week together, doing shared activities, hobbies, mutual interests, spending time with family and friends, traveling together, teamwork, building skills both in our personal and our professional life, intimacy, both physical and emotional intimacy, that led to either moving in together or getting married. This was my standard. So I invite you to explore what's your standard, because my standard doesn't apply for everyone. And in our particular case, because it was long distance, after we agreed that we were going to explore a relationship together, in a very short period of time, we determined that if this was going to work, we'd have to live together. And that's been the case for going on over 5 months. And that happened 5 months into the relationship. Why am I sharing all this with you? Because coming back to what I was saying before, today we are seeing a proliferation of hookups, situationships, casual relationships. And the reason why I don't want you to let men get away with this is because there's a lack of consequence, a lack of respect, and a lack of care. What I mean to say, a lack of consequence. What I mean is, if you aren't in a place to really explore a long-term relationship, then why are you taking up my time? There's no consequence for him taking up your time. There's no consequence for him if there's companionship, connection, and sex, if there's no commitment. But the problem is, ladies, you're not establishing what commitment is right from the beginning before you begin an intimate relationship. And what this oftentimes creates is a situation where men aren't truly respecting you. And more importantly, they don't genuinely care about your well-being. I can say after my divorce, I was a train wreck. I was an emotional train wreck, and I was also very naive. And I just turned 40 when I went through a divorce. And here I'm a 40-year-old man, and I was naive to relationships. And what I meant to say is, I knew I wanted companionship, connection, and sex, but I didn't know what commitment looked like for me because I was gun shy. I was afraid. I wanted a relationship, but I didn't have the capacity to go any further. And so I would date someone for 6 weeks, we'd be intimate with one another, and then something went wrong and I pulled away. And this happened again and again and again. It took me about a year to realize I was the problem. This is why I began doing a deep dive into personal development, self-help, and spiritual work. And eventually I wrote a book about it called What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? A journey into those areas. By the way, there's a link below to all the books I recommend. See, a lot of men aren't doing the work to heal from their past relationships and their behavior since going through possibly a significant divorce. And there's no consequence. Ladies, you're not establishing a consequence for a man leading you on. This is why I'm encouraging you to set that standard. More importantly, set that boundary sooner rather than later, because ultimately a relationship, for it to truly forge, there needs to be trust and commitment. And if men are gun shy on marriage, then okay, let's explore one other aspect. Since my audience is mostly midlife, which is after baby making years and before retirement, so most of my clients are somewhere between the age of 42 and 69 for the most part. Have worked with younger women. I'm happy to work with younger women to get them started on this sooner. But here's the challenge for those of us who are over 50. The days in front of us are probably shorter than the days behind us. Choosing our mate, choosing someone to go, to our twilight is critically important, because at some point our bodies are going to fail. And do you want to do this journey alone? I'm grateful to be in a position where I've helped so many women find love. I mean, real happiness. I've got so many marriages under my belt now as a coach, because I threw out all the bullshit gender rhetoric that you hear. And and folks, if you follow me, I beg on the, sit in your feminine energy and make a man claim you kind of thing. Just lean back and that's going to magically work. Folks, the reason why I bag on feminine energy is because feminine energy is simply self-empowerment. Self-empowerment. That's what feminine energy is. Masculine energy is self-empowerment. Feminine energy is self-empowerment. Now they throw in words like receive, be in the receptive mode. I understand that maybe from a sexual perspective, sexual polarity, having that dynamic of giving and receiving. It's a penis inside a vagina. Okay, I get that. But to throw out this to imply that feminine energy is something unique, it's just self-empowerment. That's why I bag on it. But why I want to dive into trust and commitment a bit more, because don't let guys get away with this. Trust is really, does this person have my best interest at hand? It's not just about fidelity. Does this person genuinely care about my well-being? And it takes a minimum of 100 hours of face-to-face time just to get to the first level of trust. It takes about 200 hours of face-to-face time just to build a good friendship, provided that you're building it on a good platform. And what I mean by good platform, I mean, is this a relationship that is designed to be a long-term relationship? And today, dating is just a strung out version of situationships, of casual relationships. I actually call it a strung out version of friends with benefits with some minor monogamy and exclusivity. Listen, I'm encouraging, this is the solution to all this. I'm encouraging what I talk about: vetting, screening, filtering. The term is called hardballing. What it means to say is a woman who is in her self-empowerment doesn't allow herself to actually accept crumbs or accept a man who isn't absolutely intentional. Now, it's tough to figure these guys out. This is why you got to do a pre-qualifying before you ever meet them. Hey, listen, you're spending all day text messaging. Why not spend all that time asking deeper questions instead of the surface questions? Sadly, most people have surface conversations. You think there's depth because you might be talking about some emotional things, but you're not talking really, most of you are not, are talking about the importance, listen, of shared values, what those really are. By the way, go to Google, type in list of values, see what they really are. But more importantly, where your values lie in the way of your ideologies as well, whether it's politics, whether it's religion. Those are two critical areas to explore to determine someone's ideology. And then lifestyle blendability. Folks, I talked to you about a long distance relationship I was in. We didn't explore this without really going through, really picking apart our lifestyle compatibility. And lastly, emotional maturity. We have so many human beings out there that are dysfunctional, or if not worse, clinical issues, men and women alike. And you could listen, we've all been indoctrinated in the belief that chemistry equals relationship success. And most of us know that's furthest from the truth. So, how do we avoid the men? What was this? Men are doing this to avoid a commitment. They're hooking up. They're choosing situationships. They're choosing casual relationships. That's not really much of a commitment there. Why are they doing this? Because it's available to them. Because they don't have to make a serious commitment to someone, because so many, sadly, women don't establish their standards sooner, and then they find themselves attached to a person that isn't going to go the distance. Just remember, self-empowerment establishes that you're intentional. You clearly discuss what does commitment mean to you, and maybe you do this before you ever have a physical relationship with them. I don't mean kissing like that, but I'm talking about a true physical relationship. And through radical honesty, screening and filtering and vetting, as I continually talk about, is the solution to avoiding those men that avoid commitment. And don't let guys get away with this, okay? Is this sinking in? Is this resonating with you? Please let me know. Post a comment below. Hit that like button. Please share this video with your friends. If you're brand new to my channel, please subscribe to my channel. And then check out all the links below to a discovery call with me. Check out my book called What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway, and all the other books. And you can check out my group to have direct access to me at Midlife Love Mastery.